Hello and welcome to Trails, Tales and Fails, the podcast where we explore the grit, glory and the growth found on the trails of life. In this ep, we delve into the remarkable journey of Susie Chan, Peloton instructor, ultramarathon runner, social media influencer and award-winning author. From her humble beginnings to conquering some of the world's most grueling races, including multiple finishes at Marathon des Sables, finishing Badwater 135 in 42 hours, as well as many other awesome race finishes to her name, Susie's story is a testament to the power of determination and resilience. Her memoirs, Trails and Tribulations, The Running Adventures of Susie Chan, recently won the Sports Performance Book of the Year Awards. So join us today as we explore her evolution from someone who did not run at all to becoming a beacon of inspiration in the endurance community and just the running community in general. As always, if you like the pod, please share it on socials and give us a review, as it does help us grow the pod and it reaches more people. We hope you enjoy. Susie Chan, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's so lovely to chat.
I know, it's lovely to chat to you.
And all things running, it's amazing. Lucky us, thank you.
My favourite subject is running.
Yeah, awesome.
So it's two things.
Oh, and happy birthday for a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
Looks like you had an
yeah.
amazing time.
Have you recovered?
Well, yes. So it was a big birthday party. I got a lot of people down to the Isle of Wight and it was a lovely venue, beautiful sunset. We had a slightly wacky local band came on. Somebody set fire to some bagpipes. It was incredible. And then I made a lot of people do park run the next day, which was for many a mere few hours later. And it was shambolic, but we showed up and made it happen.
And are they still friends?
A lot of people didn't show up, but the hardcore runners came to park run, and we looked like we hadn't slept so much. And yeah, I had a park run where I was fine for 0.3 miles, and then the rest of it was a bit chewy.
and that's okay. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah. So we're going to jump in, and we always do like a little icebreaker question at the start. And our first question is: so your dream pacer, if you could choose anyone, alive or dead, to pace you through the final 20 miles of an ultra, who would it be and why?
So I know he's a runner, but I don't know if he's an ultra runner, but he certainly is one of the finest sportsmen in the United Kingdom, and that would be Lewis Hamilton, because I idolise him. And I'm a big F1 fan, and in my head, we are friends. You know, we have like an imaginary friend. Mine's Lewis Hamilton, and that would be the most motivating thing ever. If I was doing like 100 miler and I knew at 80 miles Lewis Hamilton was going to be there and run the last 20 miles with me, I would show up and I would definitely like up my running game. So,
you think he'd bring good chat?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, look what the man does for a living. Like how focused he has to be, and how on it. And they've got to be super fit. Those drivers, they do some incredible the training that they have to do. So his fitness will be there. I know he likes running. I believe he's a Peloton fan, so hopefully he's on one of my classes. That would be like any excuse just to try and steal a bit of time with Lewis Hamilton, to get into his mind as well, because the mindset you have to do that sport and to have that sort of faith in yourself and what you're doing, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Well, we've not had Lewis before,
No.
so that's great. So guilty pleasures. Do you have any go-to snacks, taste of music, or any race rituals that you consider or other people might consider a guilty pleasure?
I used to believe that guilty pleasures were a thing, and as I've got older, I'm 50 now, I don't think you need to be guilty about enjoying whatever it is you enjoy. Whether it's like really cheesy pop music, don't be guilty about it. Just lean into it and enjoy it. So I don't use the phrase. I stopped using the phrase guilty pleasures. However, I know exactly what you mean, and I don't feel guilty about anything I eat. Cake, pizza, beer, red wine, whatever it is. I think everything is all about moderation. But I think, let me think of I do like pretty bad, like that sort of. That's some cheese which just comes in plastic. You know, that's
Yeah,
yeah, I'll eat that. That's no
burger
problem.
cheese.
Yeah, no problem. That is not very pleasant or fresh. I'll eat that. Cheese things. Yeah, bad cheese, I think, is probably.
A
Yeah,
bad cheese. Okay.
that's a strong one.
Lunchbox, you know, the Lunchables, any of that, down with it all.
Yeah.
Music, no. Again, as I've got older, I feel like you know, when you're young and you want to be like, I like all the trendy bands, the trendy groups, which I did. I was very indie as a younger person, and now I've got older, and I play a lot of music in my classes at Peloton, so we cover a lot of different genres, and I'm like, yes, Steps had some absolute tunes, you know. So I love that sort of pop music, that sort of frothy pop, which I really probably didn't pay too much attention to when it was coming around in the 2000s, in the late 90s, and now I'm like, put it on, nostalgia.
Yeah.
What I love about so I've just started using the Peloton bike, and I do quite a few of the Matt Wilpers rides. Love a bit of Matt Wilpers. And what is great is actually I hadn't realised how much music I'm not exposed to, and you just hear so much varied music on Peloton.
You
I'm
really
like,
do.
oh my gosh, that's going on the playlist. I've never heard that. It's really great.
New music, and then also I'm quite maybe because I have turned half century, I do love a bit of nostalgia and where that music takes you. So you know, sort of guilty pleasures. I'm anything 80s, that sort of thing, which takes me back to that sort of decade where you know I was young and watching Top of the Pops. Anything like that, I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I can assure you that Steps is on my playlist.
Maybe a few times in class, but you know, and I think what I'm trying to say is like back in the day I would have been like, oh no, and now I'm like, oh yeah, let's go.
Awesome. So we have listened to your book. We've
Yeah,
just come back from the
amazing.
Lake District, and we listened to your book, which was amazing. Congratulations on the award, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So just for the listeners, what sparked your initial I feel it's odd phrasing the question like this. What sparked your initial interest in running? And how did it evolve into a passion for ultras?
So I wasn't interested in running at all.
That's why I said it feels awkward rephrasing. I
When
like
I
phrasing it
started
like that.
running, I wasn't interested in running. I was very unfit. I was in a bit of a rut in life. I was a single mum. I had a job which I did enjoy, but I was kind of stuck. It was a very low paid job, and I was sort of just sitting at home, not really doing very much. And I was unfit, but my daughter was quite young, and I did want to try and feel better about myself. And by that, I don't mean in how I looked. It was more like a self-confidence thing. I didn't really have the confidence just to go to a gym or go to a fitness class. I was actually quite, I know it's I was quite shy. I just didn't have any, like I wouldn't speak to, you know, I wouldn't really go into a room and start talking to people. And I think my brother could sort of see this, and he was running a marathon as part of his life bucket list things to do. He wants to tickle these things off, and he lives quite near me, and he found a local half marathon, Farnham Half, Pilgrim's Half. You should do it if you haven't. It's a cracker. And I said, I'll do it. I didn't really know how far a half marathon was. And he really kind of basically said, do it, you know, be fun, it'll be fun. So I signed up to it and then tried to start running, which when you're 35, as I was then, and smoked and drank, it was quite hard work. I was very unfit, and I started to try to run and to sort of abridge the training that I did for that half marathon. I did turn up on the day, absolutely terrified to the core of my being, and ran a half marathon through the trails, which I didn't even know was a thing, and finished. And when I finished, I was so, you'll understand as runners, you know, when you're just sort of empty, sort of physically, but I was so full emotionally,
Yeah.
and I just was elated, absolutely elated and buzzing for days. I couldn't walk properly for days, but I couldn't believe that I'd done that, because 30 miles is a very, very long way to run. And I ran all of it, even the hilly bits. And it just gave me such a sense of personal achievement and satisfaction, which nothing had ever done in my life up until that point. It was something which I'd done for me, and I can really remember thinking, I'm going to do more of this. This has made me feel so good. And it was a real watershed moment. And then I fell quite rapidly into the running world from there. So from running a half marathon to ultramarathons was 2 years.
Well, it is a fast journey, and that moves us on to, you then decided to take on a very famous marathon des Alpes, and you completed it numerous times, but most notably the first time round, when you could argue it changed your life forever. So with such a massive adventure and challenge, what did make you want to go back with all the what made you want to go back again?
It's one of those, there's an interesting question actually, because there are some races I've done which have been so utterly perfect I don't want to go back and sort of undo those memories. You know, if you go back to a race which went so well, you think, what if it goes wrong, and then you sort of tainted the memory of it. But there's something about the Marathon des Alpes. I just went by myself, which on reflection, that's something I wouldn't do now. I wouldn't do it now, but I did then. I was very brave, and it just threw me into the world of ultra running, which I didn't even know it really existed. And I thought I'd be a sort of one and done with the ultra marathons and go back to half marathons and marathons, which I really loved at that time. And it's something so otherworldly and consuming, being in that desert. You've obviously done ultra marathons, but when you do something called a multi-stage ultra, which is day on day, you're living in a bubble and there's no communication with the outside world. All you get are inbound emails, basically very short paragraph emails, and so you're very much in this bubble, and it was so pure, and you're with people who I met some incredible people, and you're just living this very extreme life. You're starving to death, you're running through a desert, and then you're sort of just sitting there from 3 o'clock onwards with nothing to do other than chat to people and look at the beautiful desert. And it's just so incredible, and it really, really did change my outlook on what I could do, the people that there are out there, and the running community, and how unbelievably enabling and encouraging it is. And I came back a different person. I just came back with more of a what can I do next attitude rather than can I do it. And so really and when you look at things with that sort of perspective, the world is massive. There's so many things that you can try and have a go at. And I just wanted to share that experience with people. I wanted, when you've been seen a film that's really exciting, that you go, oh, you've got to see this film. It was like that, but an ultramarathon with all my friends. You've got to come back, come with me, straight. I want people to experience it too, and to have that for themselves as well.
Yeah, you have like a list, right? They've seen it, they've done it. There's
some outstanding people left on that list. Our mutual friend John is one of them. I need to get him to that desert.
Oh my God, I would love that. Good luck.
There's only like 2 or 3 people on the planet I would go back and do MDS for, and he's one of them.
Oh, I from your wearing contacts, one of your things in your book about Marathon des Alpes was about the contacts and the sand. And I know it's such a small detail, but it really I really like. I was like, that for me hit, like listening to your book and the story. I was like, oh gosh, that would have stressed me out so much.
There's fans everywhere. I mean, it's just in the atmosphere. It's just in the air. And I was a contact lens wearer there. I'm not anymore. I had to have operations on my eyes. I won't bore you with it. And it was absolutely impossible to get a contact lens, literally like that, without getting sand on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so and in the end, I only had 1 pair the first time I did it, and one just ripped. And so I had to take it out. So I had to sort of, if I wanted to see what the desert was like, I was just like looking at it through one eye, get it sharp, and then praying that I didn't rip the other one for the rest of it. It was day 1 that happened, so the rest of the week just been like,
it was such a small detail, but I really felt with that. I was like, oh gosh.
And that's the real reason why you had to go back a second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what
it looked like with full clarity, yes.
So you have raced in jungles, deserts, and across, like you say, brutal multi-day ultras. And I think I sort of really got into sort of Susie Chan and following with the Badwater process and like the whole and I'd reconnected with our mutual friend John and stuff, and then the Badwater. So what made Badwater different? Was it the community, the landscape, or the sheer relentlessness of this challenge in the process of it all?
That race, I cannot tell you. It has a piece of me. A piece of me is still in Death Valley. somewhere. There's a climb called Father Crowley, like a bit of my soul lives there permanently. So just to explain the race, it's 135 miles non-stop. You start in something called Badwater Basin, which is the lowest point in Northern America. It's 583 foot, I believe, below sea level. And then you run over 3 mountain ranges, finishing at Mount Whitney, which is the highest point in contiguous USA. So you run from the lowest point to the highest point. These points are 135 miles apart, and you run on the road, and the mountain ranges are not snowy, they're in the desert. They're in Death Valley, which is the hottest place on earth, and the race is traditionally held at the hottest time of the year, which is July, and it hurts like hell. It's unbelievable. And I always, as soon as I started ultra running, after that first Marathon des Sables, and then I did my first 100 miler, and somebody had a Badwater buckle on, and I was like, and then James Elson was the only person I knew, who is the race director for Centurion, was the only person I knew who'd run that race. And I was like, wait, what? And it became like the gold star for me, because I know my strengths. I'm not a mountain runner, but I do like to run a long distance on road. I'm really drawn to that desert environment. And it just became the goal, the absolute life goal for me to run that race. And I said that. And there's one thing saying you want to run Badwater, and another thing doing it. And it's quite a difficult race to get into. It's invitational only. 100 people globally only get selected by a panel to run this race. And you need to have a bit of a CV in place. And one of the things which does help your application is if you have crewed. And I now understand the importance of that, having done it. I went out to crew, and I'm here in like Hampshire, right? Thinking, Death Valley, get some heat training in, it'll be fine. You go to Death Valley as crew, and it is unbelievable. I was hallucinating crewing, right? just
Wow.
You're running, you're pacing, you're driving. You're not sleeping for 2 days, and I cannot explain how hot it is. It is literally like standing in an oven. And I went to crew it for the first time, thinking, okay, this is my way in. I'm going to be invited to Badwater. And on the second night, I sent a message to all my running friends in capital letters saying, never ever let me enter this race. It says some things in ultramarathons, right? And like, the sort of tail end of those 100 miles and everybody's just a mess, right? That is nothing. I've never seen people moving forward in this environment. It is absolutely staggering. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. And then because I crewed somebody, another Brit wanted me to come and crew him because I then had the experience. And with him, he was like, talking about contact lenses, he was wearing them. He was going about 70 miles in, my eyes, and his contact lenses were melting onto his eyeballs. And so we had to sort of like scrape them off his eyes and put his glasses on, which were burning his face.
Wow.
And we had one bit where we met up with the race staff, and they had an ambient air temperature to measure the air temperature. And the temperatures you see, which Death Valley is 52 degrees Celsius, those are taken in the shade. We measured the ambient air temperature 1 meter above the tarmac, and it was 76 degrees Celsius.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
It's blistering. And so I crewed him, and I was like, no, not for me. And then what finally happened was Debbie, who, as we know, Martin Consali, she's probably the most premier ultra runner I've seen continually for the last 10 years throughout the UK.
She's awesome.
She's astonishing. I've been following her since I started ultra running, and she went out to do Badwater. I was supposed to be on the race staff, and I switched to her crew, and I have never seen anything like it. She started throwing up from mile 30 and then ran 100 miles on what is probably the equivalent of 3 gels. I've never had anything like it. It was unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
But you need to meet her to be like, yeah, that's Debbie. She's fine. And she was top 10. It was astonishing. But there was one really difficult bit, and she was on it throwing up, and she just looked me like dead in the eyes and went, you're going to do this race.
Brilliant.
Yes, I do.
Have you heard James Elson's story about it? He does like race reviews. I can't remember if it was one of his race reviews or somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure it was James. Said that when he entered Badwater, he was like, it was quite early on in his running career, and he said that all of his bags got lost, so he had nothing.
Yeah, he went to the supermarket, didn't he?
And he had to go to like a massive supermarket, and but literally kit himself out for the whole race from a supermarket, and he was running in cotton t-shirts, like black cotton t-shirts. He just said, it was, and he managed to do it. But the stories that come out of very, very early on,
Yeah.
people pretty
He,
much
yeah,
get
he
punched
did
in the
say,
face and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? This is
yeah,
insane.
he did say, and I'll never forget this because I saw it before I went out there. He said it's the most I've ever suffered in a race. And then I asked Debbie, I said, what has been your hardest, retrospectively, a few months later, I said, what is the hardest thing you've done? And she said it was Badwater. And I said, why? And she said, because you don't just pop out for a run in Death Valley. You pop out for a run in Chamonix, but you don't pop out for a run in Death Valley.
Yeah.
And I still, on reflection, cannot believe I did it. I mean, I was not, I was right at the back of that field, but that was the best I could possibly be. I trained so hard for that race, and I was absolutely alive in those last like 3 or 4 miles. My heart was singing. I just felt so, it was magical. It was absolutely magical finishing that race because I'd done it. It was my dream race.
It
And-
goes back to what you say earlier about finishing something, say, physically exhausted and broken, and yet just emotionally and mentally and just it. And I think that's a really good. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
It's
So there's a Peloton documentary about it, which is available to watch, which is well worth watching. And one of the things that I took from that was it was said that fewer people have finished Badwater than have climbed Everest.
yeah.
And like I think that's just incredible. And like whether you finish towards the front or whether you finish towards the back, I mean, I just don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. It's just like it's your own personal journey, and it's unbelievable. So on the subject of the documentary, obviously you had like Susie Striders and there was a Stridathon. Having those people there in the back of your mind, knowing that for 135 miles there was somebody just keeping it going, how powerful was that in getting you through it?
Honestly, I can't believe it. So, but at Peloton, there's these sort of, and we don't set these up as instructors, just to be totally clear on this. There's these like instructor groups, so people get grouped together under one instructor, and they also come to our classes and encourage each other. Like little groups who have they pick their chosen instructor. And so I've got this incredible group of people called Susie Striders, and just because they knew I was doing that race, that event, they tag teamed. So somebody was running somewhere in the world every time I was running for the entirety of me running that race. And I can't remember the stats, I wish I could, but they ran thousands of miles, way more than me. And there were some, as you can imagine, in a race that it took me 41 hours, 42 hours, I think. I went through a bit of a roller coaster of emotions. And in those moments where it was incredibly tough, it was really heartwarming to know. I didn't have there's no phone signal in the desert, so I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew it in my head that they would be there. It was so emotionally motivating for me, just having that thought.
Yeah, very, very special. Going from ultra running and like we said about Peloton. So how do you channel your ultra running experiences, which, as we know, can be quite isolating when you're out on your own on the trails, to then you are a huge motivator to thousands online daily. Like they're two quite extremes. How do you jump between the two?
I love my little sort of circle of friends who I go out running with, because Peloton, we're sort of, it's an incredible job, but we are in quite a privileged position there to be able to stand in front of these people. And so I sort of do my Peloton thing, and I go back to my friends, and I'm just like Susie, just like still last in the group because I'm the slowest out of everybody. So I have this really nice balance, and I go back to work and I'm at the front again, It's really easy for me because running's running, isn't it? And I love running, and I think with the people around me who I run with in my life, and there's no snobbery about running. It's not a thing. You can be fast, slow, trail, road. It doesn't matter. Beginner, you can be elite. It doesn't really matter where you are. It's all the same thing that brings us together. And I love my job. And one of the best things I think that it has brought to me, and I've learned through being a Peloton instructor, is I was very deep in the ultra running world just before I came to Peloton, where it's very normal to be like, do you want to go run 25 miles on Saturday? Yeah, sure. And that would be normal.
Yeah.
this is not normal. Right? I now know this is not a normal way to behave. It's the people who I'm around who I'm just off to run 100 miles. I'm going to do this incredible race. That sort of behaviour is not normal. But I was so deep in it, it was quite normalised to me. And then I started my job at Peloton. I had to really, go back to basics. And I was a beginner runner. I was that person that couldn't run half a mile. Like that was me, not that long ago. And I'm now connecting with people who are on their running journeys. And I get these messages from people. I get these like daily from people who I've just finished my first mile. I've just run my first 5K. And honestly, it's just incredible. There was one I had last week. Somebody, I think they said, I'm 58 years old and I've just run my first marathon. Thank you. And it's just like, And there's been particularly actually in the Striders group, I want to call a couple of them out because there's one lady who started off walk running. She finished London Marathon, a 2-year journey to get from not even running to finishing London Marathon. There's another one that's just about to finish the World Marathon Majors, having just started running when I came to the tread. And there's a little group of them who are ultra running now. So it's just being part of getting them on their journey. It's such a privilege, and that's all you need when I step on that tread in the studio. That's all you need to just remember to put yourself in their shoes and be like, this is somebody's taken time. They're giving you the 3 most precious things. They're giving you their energy, their time and their choice of exercise with you, that they've chosen time with me to do that. So I'm going to do my absolute best, whether it's 10 minutes or 2 hours on the tread. I'm going to give them exactly what they've come for.
I on that, you sort of say that to ultra runners it's quite normal to be going, hey, let's go out for 25 miles today and 20 miles tomorrow, and you're absolutely right, that becomes normalized behavior, which to almost 100% of the population is completely bonkers. But then I suppose you go to you get a job with Peloton, which obviously you're going to have to make adjustments, I would assume, in terms of what you're used to doing, in terms of what's normalized to you, and then making sure that actually you stay injury free, you're physically on form, you're mentally on form. Was that quite a simple adjustment for you personally, because of being able to be in the spotlight to just motivate and inspire thousands of people, or did that take a bit of time to get used to?
I did genuinely think, because when something which was mine, that's something which gives me joy, I thought, will this change how I feel about running? When I started the job, because I'm now having to. It's the thing which I do for me. Is it gonna feel like work? And the truth is, it never does. Thankfully, I didn't know, and then I started, to do the job, and it's absolute pure joy. I did definitely for the first 6 to 10 months, I was very, very mindful about events and races for myself. So I deliberately didn't do anything, because it is a lot of energy in that studio to be the one that has to motivate people. It's not just me imagine going out for a run and then you're like, come on, let's go. You're thinking, you've got 9 cameras. They're moving around. You've got a script which I have written. You've got your playlist. You've got 2 different clocks to work off. So everything's got to be to the second. It's a live broadcast. So in your head, you're counting down, you're counting up, you're making sure you're looking at the live leaderboard, which is moving. Sometimes there's people in the studio. So there's a lot going on. So you're very busy in your head and you're running. It's a lot of energy. So a normal sort of 30-minute run as a Peloton instructor is more than me going out for a 30-minute run by myself. There's a lot more going on. When you sort of get that tiredness if you've done an exam, even your head tired. So it took an adjustment I wanted to protect that energy and make sure that I was showing up the best way I possibly could be when I was new to the job. And then you get used to it. And so I was very mindful of any events. So I didn't really do many events beforehand. I just throw myself into anything, and then also get to a point in the race I'd be like, this is really hurting, and then carry on anyway, because I didn't know, I just had to do nothing. There's no running. I'm not obligated to run the other side of it. As a Peloton instructor, this is my job, to make sure that I'm there for people. So that now is my priority. So I'm just a lot more careful. I'm also not getting any younger. So where perhaps I would probably not, I'd maybe drop a strength session because I'm tired. Now I do the strength session. Today I've got yoga, I've got strength. So I'm doing that cross training. I'm looking after myself, and I'm just making sure that I am as best as I possibly can be for my job. And over the 3 years of being a Peloton instructor, as you can see, I now can run a race like Badwater and then come back to work a week later.
Yeah, that's incredible.
On the recovery as well.
Yeah.
You did a Centurion one. Was it the 100 Hills you did?
Oh yeah, I did 200 Hills. Yeah.
And I think on your stories I saw that you into work like maybe the next day doing like a 90-minute run or something. And I was like, oh, that's literally, I take my hat off.
Good on the recovery. I have spent years working out what is the most rapid way to recover for the job that I do, and I've got a few. I'm big on recovery, and I'm big on resting around these events and things. So making sure I don't come into the event tired is going to help the recovery. I've got loads of recovery shortcuts that I do.
Oh, it sounds like it works. So one of the biggest perceived barriers to running and exercise, and like you've mentioned, as in when your Susie's riders come on to your sessions, is giving up is time, as in just the juggling of time is real and it's hard. And if when we're chatting and about what we were going to say, it's like, yeah, she's a Peloton instructor, ultramarathon runner, award-winning author, wife to Sean, a mum. So that's quite a massive list. How do you manage to balance these roles and keep everything, all the plates running so smoothly?
Oh, I'm knackered. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy, and I'm not doing it perfectly. As you know, it's like everything ebbs and flows. Sometimes something that's the number one thing. Some weeks I am firefighting, and other weeks it's fine. But that's just life, isn't it? I think life is just like that, isn't it? Sometimes it's just things can be like I've got too much to do, and other times it's like, oh, fine. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've got the house isn't very tidy. I've got a room which I need to sort out, and I just do that. The garden, everything's dead. So there's things which you kind of like just. And if I do manage to plant some plants for the summer, that'd be because I have found some time. Yeah. So it's just about prioritizing, and for me, it's running, my job, my family, my dogs, and the running. They're like the core thing that I would buy my time, and everything else is just fun and extra and bonus. And I'm very lucky in that my social time is my running time. So a lot of my friends, if you don't run, then I probably see you once, twice a year. If you run, what are you doing on Saturday? Because I've got a training run. Do you want to come with me? Yeah. So it's just being. I just do my best, like everybody. I just do my best, and some things are set in stone. So my own personal training runs, I always make time for that, and then sleeping. Bed early. I'm pretty boring. I mean, those are the only things I do. Literally, my job, my family, my dogs. I don't do much else. I don't like to go to the cinema. I don't watch much TV.
And I think you're right. I think you definitely start the running. So who you start running with definitely become closer friends because you see them. You're absolutely right, and it's a special community. So
yeah. 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. Let's run to Parkrun. That's my social life.
Yeah. See, people say you talk about like perceived barriers, and I know that we're like adulting is hard, right? There's no two ways about it. Like lots of people spend quite a lot of time tired because a lot's going on. There's lots to juggle. Like you say about not watching TV, not going to the cinema, like I would argue that if you could take some of those things out, like watching TV in the evening, getting to bed an hour earlier, like that frees up so much time if you're like able to get up early, get things done.
I'm an early riser, so I will be like, particularly in summer, it's like 6 a.m. I was up today. I don't know what time. I'm up, been out, I've run, I've done some work, done some emails, filed my expenses or whatever it is, and I've done a workout, and now I'm here. So I've done a lot, but I will be in bed by 9. so I just sort of shift my day. But I'm quite structured. So my week on Monday, my week is quite structured, and I have to be that organised. I have to write it down, otherwise it doesn't happen. So it's just I'm quite good at planning my time and maximising the time I have. So if there's travel time to work, I'm making sure that I'm actually doing something useful in that time, or making sure I've given myself a bit of space to detach. So maybe, I'll use that time to listen to a podcast or just do something which is just a bit of downtime for my brain. So it's really hard. Yeah, it's hard. I don't think anybody's out there doing that perfectly, are they?
Not here, Susie, not here.
No, true. Okay, fab. Right, so you've recently written a book, Trails and Tribulations. Congratulations on the book, which is hugely successful and recently won the Sports Performance Book of the Year awards.
I can't believe that.
Amazing.
I know, and up against some amazing books as well. yeah, I guess what inspired you to, because we talk to people with like amazing stories like you, and it's like, oh my gosh, you should write a book.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, people think, oh, I'd love to, but you know, there are reasons why we can't do it. What made you do it?
I didn't want to do it.
Ah!
No, basically Bloomsbury just came to me and said, can you write a book? And I went, no, absolutely not. And they sort of were a little bit persistent. And then actually it was just that I'd got the job at Peloton. I was like, no, thank you. And also I was like, what, are you joking? Because I'll be really honest. I mean, you know me, you're part of the ultra running world. There are some people doing some absolutely incredible things out there. And I mean, I know I take part in these events. I'm not winning them like you are. I'm just sort of, you're winning races. I'm like, hey, I was trying to survive. I know. I think that what's been interesting about my story is that I am just like an everyday runner who has done some extraordinary things. In that, I've done some extraordinary events. So that was what was interesting. But Bloomsbury just came to me and asked me to write a book, and I said no. I think at least twice. And then what happened was there was. Lockdown happened, which sort of changed my perspective on wanting to do Badwater. I thought, I'd just do this race. That life's too short. And I got accepted into that race at the same time as Bloomsbury asked me again if I wanted to write a book. And I thought, do you know what? I've got my final chapter. I know how this is going to end. And it was also slightly motivating to think, right, I can't be and then I failed. No, it was the timing for when they asked me again. It seemed okay, but I was still persecuted in the whole writing process of the complete, pure, total imposter syndrome. Like, this is who's gonna be interested in this.
Thousands of people. Thousands.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know. I realised now with a bit of hindsight, and they were so encouraging, Bloomsbury, and I was like, I don't know if this is any good. And they're like, keep doing it. So I did no ghostwriter at all. I wrote the whole thing myself. That was the deal. I said, I'm going to write this all or nothing. And actually, the process was really useful because I'd forgotten about a lot of the stuff I'd done. And when you start to sit down and think about what you have done and some of the people I've met and some of the stories and things I've seen, it's incredible. I was really, I really took pause on my life and to think about, actually, I should be really pleased about all these things that I've done. And I got to connect with some people that I hadn't spoken to for a long time just to get their perspective on a race, because I feel like your own personal perspective of a race very much depends on how your race went. So it could be like, that was a terrible race, and it wasn't a terrible race. I was just having a terrible race. You know what I mean? So you sort of just to get another point of view on how other people found that race or how other people viewed me in a race. And honestly, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Did I do that? So it was really interesting. And I think on net, and as I reflect, I'm so glad I wrote the book, and really pleased with how well it's been received and how successful it's been.
Yeah. I was thinking to myself, it must be incredibly difficult when you're sitting down to write a book like that to dig into those archives from, 8, 10, 12 years ago, like MDS. You talk about the 24-hour track, and that's like hard because like you're like the nature of ultra running is that once you start getting 8, 9, 12, 14 hours in, the mind is not sound. And actually to think back,
things, I was asking other people what was I like at track, and they had a completely different point of view. I thought I was having a great time. Apparently I was wailing for a lot of it, like, oh, I don't remember that. Yeah.
I think what stands out is that, you say that there are lots of other people who do the same things as you, but they're winning races. But what shines through to me is like your character and your ability to like, your energy is like infectious, your ability to inspire others. Yeah. And, I think like when we're listening or we're talking about stories, like, and it's all relatable for us, but as I said, like there are going to be just thousands of people listening, just going, oh my gosh, like, has she really done that? Is she doing this? And the way that you manage to deliver that is very unique, and I think that's probably why it's so popular moving and inspirational, right? I mean, without giving too much of the book away, like it's a very inspiring story, from the start to where you've ended up, and it's fab. So
read it everybody.
Yeah, read it. Okay, so truth or lie? So you don't tell us yeah, if you give us a statement, might ask a few questions around that, and then we'll try and guess if the statement's true or if the statement is a lie, and then we normally keep like a little score.
It gets competitive.
It can get quite competitive. So, Susie,
you're asking me questions about it.
Yes.
And then between you two, you have to guess which is truth, which is a lie.
Correct.
All right.
And we're going to tally it up. Normally I win.
Okay.
Could we have your first statement, please?
Okay, I have been once detained overnight at Her Majesty's pleasure.
Oh, crumbs. That's quite a strong first statement. When was this, Susie?
Pre-90s.
I don't know if you can ask what it was for.
Just leave that there.
Yeah. That's just a strong... I know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to lock in.
I'm going to lock in.
The three of them? Or how do you do this?
So we're just going to lock in and we're just going to tally it, and we don't tell the truth or lie until the last one. So
I don't understand how this works.
So I'm gonna go true. I mean, what a statement. No one could ever just make that up. I'm going true. Max?
I'm just pondering this.
Come on,
this is life before ultra running. I think you liked a bit of a party, so I'm gonna say true. Yeah, I'm gonna say true.
Next statement, please.
Okay, the next one is I can drink a yard of ale.
Oh God!
Wow.
Can I just say we've never had these truth or lies on our podcast before?
But they're great.
Again, I'm gonna bearing in mind how quickly.
How quick?
Do you if you were to have a race against
4 minutes. It's a technique thing.
If you were to have a race against somebody drinking in a yard, would you win?
Depends on what the drink is. I'm going to say if it's a flat bitter, possibly.
I'm looking
in. Gosh, no, I've got some strong knowledge here. Yeah, no, I think that's hard. It's hard to do.
How much is how many pints is
a
that?
Yard? I think it's got to be about 1.5 litres. Couple of litres.
No.
I'm going to say that's a false.
Okay, I've gone
if
true.
That's true though. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you got another one, or was it just the
I've
two?
got one.
Okay, yes, please.
I once dropped something worth £500,000.
Oh my God! Again. Can I change my first one and say the first one's false?
Are you allowed
I'm
to?
going to say, yeah, I'm going to. First one's false. So you haven't done it night. Then I'm going true. What was it that you dropped? Can you share?
It was a museum object. That's all I'm prepared to say.
True. False, true, Max?
Yeah, I can't remember if I remember hearing something about this before. So I'm going to go true to the object.
So you're going true, false, true.
True, false,
and
true.
I'm going false, true.
Okay, Susie, statement number one. Was it truth or was it a lie?
I have not been detained for a night at Her Majesty's pleasure. How dare you believe that I would be so naughty as to do that?
I know.
Honestly, I'm a law-abiding citizen, and that's the end of it.
I know.
Thank goodness I changed it. Susie, I'm so sorry I doubted you.
I
got it right.
The 90s were wild. I mean, post-shaves, but that's it. Okay, the second one, I cannot drink a yard of ale. I think in my head I can. I've never tried, but I feel like it's like I've seen the technique. I've given it a go, for sure, but I feel like it is a lot of liquid.
And the last one?
That's true. That's true.
Draw.
It's a draw. It's a draw. Excellent.
What did you drop?
I can't really say.
Oh, okay.
No.
Offline. This is offline.
Me on then. Right. Thank you for that. They were good ones. So we're going to this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So on this podcast, we also like to give some airtime to things which didn't quite go to plan, as this is the reality of running, and sometimes, as we know, life in general. So describe a moment on the trail that didn't go as planned, and what did you learn from it?
I mean, I've had so many. We've all had. Surely everybody's had a moment that hasn't gone to plan. I'm for somebody that runs with 9 cameras at her for a living. I fall over a lot.
Oh.
I trip. I fall. Yes, but so that happens. I think.
Do you hurt yourself?
you sort of fall over and you get up and you're like, I'm fine, and then you carry on running. You're like, am I fine?
Mm.
No, I'm just clumsy. It's more of a sort of just falling over a lot. What is something that has gone wrong? I mean, I've had all manner of. It's mainly bad admin. Nothing disastrous,
Yeah.
I'm going to say. Nothing absolutely disastrous. I've had bad races where you just have to pull yourself out of a hole or whatever. I've just made some bad choices, like, to ignore the beginning of the chafing or
Yeah.
wrong trainer choice, which you just had to really suffer out. So a lot of things which have led to my own suffering, but I'm going to say it's nothing which has completely derailed me on a trail. I've been pretty lucky.
I think admin is a good one. I think there's always learning from that.
It's just not dressed appropriately for the weather, and then something
Yeah.
starts to chafe, or I put an old bra on or something, and it's
Yeah.
just. Or I've had bottles which have broken. So my one sort of thing, which this is showing this is how I show my age out in ultramarathons, where I have hard bottles, because if it's a long race, if it's a multi-stage race, I cannot trust those soft bottles. So I have hard bottles, and people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, these are fail safe. I've had these come off and drop in. I did that in 50-mile one. It was on a beach. It was at a trail, I guess. So the whole top just came off my bottle, and I lost a bottle, so I had to run the whole race of just whatever
Oh,
it was in the bottom half, so it wouldn't spill out. So things like that, which have just slowed me down considerably, but not a complete disaster, I would say.
no. And the good thing about that is there's always learnings. It's
It's just part of running, isn't it? I mean, you've got
so
to
true.
because your stories to talk about, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. During challenging races, of which you have done your fair share, how do you cope with the mental low points? Are there any sort of mantras or strategies that you employ?
Yeah, I have developed these over the years. It's really, really difficult to try not to wallow in something. And often when you're running these very long races, you have a phantom pain, something will start hurting. Like I'll be like, oh, why's my knee sore? And then what I will do, because invariably it just goes away or it moves around. If a pain moves around my body, I'm like, it's fine, it's just in my head. So I will just think about any other part of my body. I'm like, well, my elbow's fine. So I started really thinking about my elbow rather than like the slightly sore quads or whatever it is. I just think about a different part of my butt. My forehead feels normal. So I just, because the more you think about something,
Yeah.
really zone in it, and then it does become a phantom pain. So I try and refocus, pinpoint, and I'll spend
like that.
my eyebrow or something. You're going to see the next
Yeah.
my right eyebrow's absolutely. And think about that. So that kind of distracts from that. Then you find out if really it is like something you need to be concerned about, or if it's just like just the pain from running 100 miles.
Now for me, it's the hot spots on my feet, and then I'm fixated on it. I'm like, oh my god, that bliss is going to be massive.
You've got to think about anything but anything. And then the other thing I do is I think about anything other than running. I'm not running. I remember one time I had somebody pace me for a 100-miler, and they were talking about all loads of different races, and I was like, can you stop talking about running whilst I'm running this 100-miler, because I just don't want to think about running. And from that, I just think I will take myself out of the race. So this is something I'll do this in park run. I'm like this, I just take myself forward a couple of hours where I'm not running, and it'll be maybe I'll think about really huge detail about the meal I'm going to have, like the restaurant, what's that like, or coming home and putting the pizza in the oven. I'll go for this sort of real time what I'm going to do. Making a nice bubble bath, eating the pizza in the bath, that sort of. I think I'll take myself forward 24 hours. I just really occupy my mind with the fact that I'm not still running and moving forward, because I think the more you fixate on it, if you're feeling tired, is the more it can double down on the negativity. And then I think about things like just silly things like, what am I going to call this in Strava? What's my Instagram post going to be? Having the conversations with people, the positive things that you get when you finish a run or a race, all those positive things, I'll go through those in my head like a little checklist.
Positive visualization, and the power of positive visualization is massively important.
So helpful.
Okay, right, Susie. We're sort of conscious of time, so we're going to go to quick fire round.
Oh Lord!
These are just questions that we're going to ask you, and they just need quick responses. So,
but without making you feel too under pressure.
Yeah, please don't feel under pressure.
It's just going to come out here if it's quick fire.
Now, normally, we don't put this one in, but as it's you, I've put in Peloton pacer. If you could have one Peloton instructor pace you on an ultra, who would it be?
So often, I think probably Jeffrey, because I'm spending a lot of time with him recently. But whenever I've been really, really deep into an ultra marathon and I need some help, I will put on an outdoor class, because these are classes you don't need to take on the tread. And I'll put Jocelyn Thompson-Rule in my ear because she's very reassuring and soothing.
Oh, that's
and
sweet.
she's my friend. So I'll put one of her. She was with me for about 3 hours in a 100-miler once. Because it was so nice just to have her talking, and it was quite distracting and positive and uplifting.
Perfect. Favorite running terrain?
I don't mind, honestly. I know people are quite evangelical about one or the other, but I'm happy. I've run 135 miles straight on the road. I can run 135 miles on the trail.
Yeah.
Trail's obviously more beautiful, but it's nice to get your road on sometimes. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer that.
Sitting on the fence on that one. Let's move it on.
It needs to be one or the other.
Oh yeah, favorite ultra distance?
50 miles, I think. It doesn't quite ruin your weekend, does it? Like 100-miler.
You can get back home and have a pizza and a beer.
It's a day, Joe. It's a dayer, isn't it? And you've really run a long way, and you feel really satisfied.
Yeah, no, I get that. Preferred audio on long runs. Is it tunes, podcasts, or silence?
It depends how long it is. If it's really long, I'll podcast, but more often than not, tunes.
Favorite post race meal?
Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Pizza.
Most underrated gear that you wear or run and think is really important. Or piece of kit. Or
underrated. I'm really low fi with my gear. I'm not really into all the gear. I don't. It's probably my watch. I mean, I'm not that it's underrated, but I don't ask much of my watch, and it's just a really
fun.
Yeah. I think I know the answer to this. Weather preference for racing, hot or cold?
hot. I mean, forget it. Cold. Forget it.
Sunrise or sunset runs?
Sunrise.
Yeah.
And if you could have a dream finish line in the next 5 years, so bucket list race that you've not already done, is there one that stands out?
Yeah, okay. I'm going to say Marathon des Sables with my besties.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Do it with them, yeah.
It's nice to have somebody that hasn't said Western States as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, yeah, Western States. Forget my friends. Delete them. Western States. What am I thinking? Why did I not say Western States?
Yeah.
We'll take your first answer.
So reflecting on your journey, which has been incredible, obviously Peloton, the book, what message would you like to share with aspiring runners and those facing their own challenges?
The main message I'm going to say that I've learned over the years is just do running for you. It should be for you and your sense of being an achievement and confidence. And as soon as you start running for other people, or to try and impress people, or to try and keep up with whatever you're seeing on social media, it's going to suck the joy out of it. And running is, as we all know, is not a linear thing. You're not just going to get faster, PBs. So just meet yourself where you are, wherever that is, and get whatever joy you can from running on that day. So by that, I mean, sometimes I'll be tired, menopausal, and I will not be able to run fast or very far. And that's fine. It's okay, because running is for me, and I want it to make me feel good about myself on that day, rather than taking away, I haven't run as far, I haven't run as fast. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a special message. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, and on that note, I think that's a great time to leave it there. Susie, we are so appreciative of you giving up time in what is a crazy busy schedule. You've been on our list of people that we've wanted to talk to for months and months and months. So the fact that it's finally happened is fab. So we can't thank you enough. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on, and let's go for a run soon.
Yes, please.
You'll have to slow down though.
See you soon.
Thanks, Susie. Bye.